What is going on, everybody? Papa Tez here with another Summoner's Glory video. We're just finishing off the series of where we go over every single phantom that's in the game and see some of the upcoming changes that are going to happen. Now, again, they are subject to change, so be aware of that. Some of the things will be changed a little bit. A few of the text things are going to be updated, so just be aware of that. But let's get into it, because hopefully I can make it through this without coughing too much. We'll go from there, but let's get into it. Let's start with the first one. Let's start with Alchemist. So on the skill 1, launches an acid missile at 3 enemies and deals 200 magic damage with a 35% chance of poisoning them for 2 turns. As you see, the damage increases to 230. And then restores an ally's HP equal to 360 of Alchemist's magic attack and increases their overall damage by 25% for 2 turns. So goes all the way up to 420% of Alchemist's magic attack, and damage increases by 40%. So working as a debuffer there. Also to increases the speed of the rest of the team by 30% for 3 turns, and has a 20% chance to taunt each enemy for 1 turn. On a 4-turn cooldown, also increases speed by up to 45% and increases taunt chances to 35%. And the passive, when taking damage, there's a 50% chance of poisoning the enemy for 2 turns, up to 65%. So let's take at the new skill changes and see how they are now. So now switching Acid Missile to attack all enemies, causing 140% magic damage on each target. Additionally, Summoner and all allies are healed for 20% of the damage done, and can be booked out to 180 damage. Then here, restores 20% of HP to all allies and increases speed by 30% for 2 turns to each member of the team. At the same time, places poison debuffs on all enemies for 4 turns, and can be taken down to a 2-turn cooldown, which is amazing, and HP restoration up to 30%. So really nice skill there. And then here, being attacked, there's an 80% chance to reduce the duration of all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn, all the way up to 100% chance whenever they're attacked. So the only thing, I guess, like it feels like that taunt is missing, man. If you had the taunt, but that would probably be crazy good if they had a taunt too. All right, so now let's move over to the next one. As you see, King Argan has been moved. King Argan is no longer there. Let me see, where is King Argan now? No, King Argan is still there. Okay. It's Luna Goddess is switched over to Light, if I remember correctly. So I'll let you all take a look at that, but let's go over Luna Goddess's kit here on what's new. So she attacks all enemies, causing magic damage equal to 350 magic defense, and restores HP of all allies equal to 30% of the damage done, all the way up to 380. So support character that hits pretty decently there. And then she also has a heal. Heals all allies by 20% of their max HP and increases their magic defense and physical defense by 50% for 2 turns. So if you have a defensive team, you're going to want to put her in there so that she increases basically their attack, especially if you have a defensive minded team. That HP restoration. So yeah, like the cooldowns here to me almost seem like, yeah, the cooldowns can go down to 6, I guess, or can go down to 4. So that's still really nice. And the HP restoration can be up to 40%. Really nice. Then here at the start of each turn, there is a 70% chance to cast continuous healing that will restore HP of the ally with the lowest HP by 15% of the user's max HP for 2 turns. So 100% chance of casting that out there, which is nice. So, the yawn is real. She definitely seems a lot better. She definitely seems a lot better and more useful. All right, let's take a look at King Argan, who used to have 4 skills there. First one, summon thunder to attack 1 enemy and deal 100 magic damage, all the way up to 120. On the skill 2, summon storm clouds to deal 190 magic damage to all enemies. 3-turn cooldown, can be booked up to 250 damage. On the passive, when attacking an enemy with more than 50% HP, the caster deals 100% additional magic damage. If the target is less than 50%, increases the crit rate of the current attack by 50%, which can go up to 130 extra damage and 65% crit rate, which means that, yeah, he could smack. He could smack. And then the other passive is at the end of the turn, there's a 60% chance of entering Berserk status, which transforms Thundershock, which is the A1, into an AoE that deals magic damage 150. So that could be booked up to 80% and booked all the way out to, or skilled up to 190 there. So let's take a look at what he has now. As you see, he's down to, I think, 2 skills. Yeah, just straight skills now. So attacks one enemy causing 160% magic damage. When basic attack causes a critical hit, additionally attacks all enemies once. And that can go up to 190. But that extra hit on all enemies will not be critical. And then his second skill, attacks all enemies causing 180% magic damage with a 30% chance to place stun for 1 turn. Additionally, it has a 60% chance to paralyze each enemy for 2 turns. So that stun can go up to 50% and the damage, or 60%, and the damage can be increased up to 210. So really nice there. And then on the big skill, or the 3, they actually just straight up have Berserk as a skill now. Attacks all enemies, causing 225 magic damage and reducing attack bar by 50%. Additionally, there is a 30% chance to reduce enemy speed by 30% for 2 turns. That damage can be increased up to 250. So really nice compliment for with others there. I think that's the way I look at it. It's kind of a nice compliment with others. All right, let's take a look at Tarya. So her old skills: attacks one enemy, deals 100% magic damage, converting 50% of it into HP. I'm gonna start summarizing some of this a little bit better because I don't need to sit here and read all this to you guys. Restores 25% of the health to all allies and removes a negative effect on a 2-turn cooldown. Can be up to 40%. Then her A3 used to be summons Force of Nature to deal 220 magic damage to everybody on a 2-turn cooldown. And it looks like that she gained the ability to convert 50% of that damage into HP. That damage can also be increased up to 250. And then the passive is she would ignore enemy defense all the way up to 35% when skilled out. So let's take a look at her now. Attacks one enemy, causing 210 magic damage, 30% chance to execute the attack again, up to 240. She restores 30% of HP all the way up to 50% of HP, can be skilled out to a 3-turn cooldown, and clears a random debuff. So really nice there. She also has another attack all enemy skill, causing 170% magic damage, and instills enemy HP equal to 20% of the damage done. Yoink. And also 30% chance to stun. So really, really nice ability. As you can see, now I'm understanding, okay, that's the way the stuns look. So it can be up to 50% chance to stun with 200 damage. So definitely interesting support there. All right, Destroyer Fizzy. Let's take a look at him now. Used to have just the attack one enemy and do magic damage, 35% chance to slow them for 2 turns. Used to summon ancient magic to attack 3 enemies and deal 270 damage, which that smacked. And he also increased his crit on his passive by 30% all the way up to 60%. I mean, you didn't have to build him with any crit rate, basically. And if the attack doesn't crit, the crit rate for the next attack is increased by 40%, all the way up to 55%. So he didn't need any crit rate whatsoever. You can just build him out with straight crit damage and straight damage at the time. But has he changed now? Let's take a look. So attacks one enemy, 100 magic damage. If the attack is critical, all enemies are hit for the same damage to the initial target, all the way up to 130. Then he has an attack all enemy skill, AoE skill, causing 170% magic damage. If the target's HP is below 20%, a critical hit is guaranteed. Absolute smack there. If we're given that critical hit, basically. And it can go all the way up to HP below 55%. So he can be used to finish off some people. So really nice there. And now his passive, whenever an enemy is killed, the user will heal himself for 15% of his max HP, and killed enemies cannot be revived. So now he has a block revive that he has there, increasing that HP restoration and other stuff like that. So basically can heal himself all the way back up from the death. All right, I know we went over Karol already, so I think we'll skip over Karol and just go straight to Secret Dancer. Oh, actually, no, we're skipping over Secret Dancer too, because she is dark now. So we'll be going straight over to Forest Long one. So yeah, Karol was actually went over in one of the previous videos, but we'll go over his new skills again so that it's here. Attacks one enemy causing 180% physical damage with a 35% chance to reduce the enemy's physical defense and magic defense by 50% for one turn. If the target's HP is below 50%, an additional attack will be executed against all enemies causing the same damage and placing a poison on each target for one turn. So you crit him out, and then he can just A1 and do all type of things with just damage increase. Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that he has in the kit. So really, really good. Then here, attacks all enemies, causing 160% physical damage, 75% chance to place poisons, and immunity is placed on himself for 2 turns. This can be booked down to 3 turns and 100% on the poisons. And the big nuke, which is leap, attacks all enemies, causing 180% physical damage and instantly activating all poison debuffs on the enemies to cause full immediate damage on each poison target. And that can be booked down to 4, which is really, really cool. And then here, before taking a fatal damage, places a death buff on himself for 1 turn, which can, looks like it could just continue to go as long as it's just 1 turn there. So really, really cool, really cool. Interesting. Especially that poison pop thought process where you just pop, load them up with a bunch of poisons, boom, gone. So cool thought process. All right, so Forest Longhair. With toss pine cones at an enemy and deal 100 damage. It's hilarious. Attack one enemy and deals 200 physical damage with 20% chance of stunning them. No real increase in the stun chance. Then when attacking, 50% chance to inflict the dissolve by acid effect, reducing the enemy's physical defense by 30%. Effect stacks up to 10 times and lasts for 2 turns. So interesting skill there. And then when attacking, inflicts the dissolve by acid effect and restores the user's HP equal to 10% of damage dealt. All right, so let's see the changes. Attack one enemy causes 210 physical damage with a 25% chance to reduce the target's healing effects by 100% for 2 turns, all the way up to a 50% chance and 240 damage. Attacks one enemy causing 360 physical damage with a 75% chance to steal a random debuff. Additionally, it places a stun on the target. So yoinks a buff and puts a stun on them, can be booked out to 100. So 4 turn cooldown, 390 damage. Looks pretty good to me. And then an attack all enemies, causing 150 physical damage with a 75% chance to decrease the physical and magic defense by 50% for each target. And that can go all the way up to, looks like on a 5 turn cooldown, 180 damage and 100% chance to drop that decrease defense and decrease magic defense and decrease physical defense. All right. So looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Let's go take a look at the Forest Dryad here. Let's keep it going. All right, Forest Dryad. Used to toss a petal at an enemy, do 100 damage. Used to activate thorns against all enemies and deal 120 damage with a 35% chance of constraining them for 1 turn, which will kind of prevent them from making a turn. When attacking, has a 20% chance to reduce the enemy speed by 10% for 2 turns. And increases the user's max HP by 5% all the way up to 20%. Now, attacks all enemies on the A1, causing 90% magic damage with a 30% chance to reduce the damage by 50% for 1 turn on each target. And that can be increased to 55% chance instead of 35% chance, upwards of up to 120 damage. A2 attacks all enemies, causing 160% magic damage with a 75% chance to decrease the physical defense and magic defense by 50% for 1 turn on each target. That can go to a 3-turn cooldown, 190 damage, and 100% chance to land, which is really nice, especially on a 3-turn cooldown. Easy to reset. And then here, upon death, there's a 75% chance to set attack bar to 0 for all remaining enemies. So it can go up to 100% chance. So just imagine you have, there's a nuts combination to me that you can have with Forest Dryad and some of the others, especially if you make Forest Dryad really, really squishy, and then bam, just absolutely yoinks the attack bar from them. So really cool, really cool. All right, looks like you have Wood Elf here. So let's go take a look at Wood Elf. You used to have a bubble on one enemy, 100 damage. Used to summon Elven Dust to attack all enemies for 150% magic damage on a 2-turn cooldown. And then the passive, there's a chance when attacking to stun the enemy for 1 turn. Used to be up to 50%. And also would increase the magic defense in battle up to 25%. But let's take a look at Wood Elf now. Looks a little bit cuter, right? To me, definitely looks a little bit cuter. He looks a little cuter. All right, attacks one enemy, causing 90% magic damage. If the attack is critical, an additional attack is triggered, causing the same damage to all enemies. So it goes from 1 hit attack and then does an AoE attack that looks like it can crit. So 120. Then Elven Dust is changed around to attack all enemies, causing 160 magic damage with a 50% chance of reducing enemy damage by 50% for 2 turns. That can go up to 75% and 190 damage. Again, that's an AoE move. Still a 4-turn cooldown, but still really nice. And then also, upon killing an enemy, restores 25% of own HP upwards to 50%. So not quite as crazy as it was, but still can be useful. But yeah, this was a crazy kit right there. That's definitely crazy. Really cool kit. The old kit was cool. All right, Sand Adept. He used to attack an enemy, 100 physical damage with a 40% chance of poisoning them. Damage increases pretty much on, I think, all the skills were just increasing things. On his A2, summon a sandstorm to attack enemies 3 times, dealing 60% physical damage each time. Poison enemies take an additional 50% damage. So if they're poisoned, he'd just be like smack, smack. So he hit pretty hard. And then when being attacked, there's a 50% chance of poisoning the enemy for 2 turns. And then increase physical attack of all allies in battle by 5% all the way up to 20%. So definitely really cool kit there. But let's take a look at it now. Now, attacks one enemy, causing 130% physical damage with a 75% chance to place poison for 2 turns. If the target is already under the effect of poison, an additional attack will be made, causing the same damage, which can be up to 160. I wonder if that means that there's multiple poisons that are coming out. So that's going to be one of the tests that I do. I'll try to work with Sand Adept and see, is he dropping multiple poisons out there? If he is, that means that there is a chance that he drops an additional poison, which is cool. All right. Skill 2 attacks all enemies, causing 160% physical damage with a 75% chance to remove continuous healing and increase damage buffs from each target. That can be booked up to 100% and can be on a 3-turn cooldown. So really nice for support. And then the passive, at the start of each user's turn, there's a 50% chance to place poison on all enemies for 1 turn. Additionally, the user is permanently immune to poison. The chance can be all the way up to 75%. So that means that If you're dealing with a tough enemy, he's gonna apply those poisons out there with the A1, and then with the passive, applying more poisons, and bada boom, bada bang, you pop them, and then again you pop them. Really cool, really cool. Especially if you're using Karol with him. All right, Astral Clock. Let's go over the old kid, but the new kid just blows this out the water. So let's quickly go over the old kid. 50% of Clock's max HP, 45% chance of absorbing an attack bar. He smacked on the A1 before. He also would restore all allies' HP by 20% and increases their damage by 50% on a 3-turn cooldown. He also used to increase the attack bar of the team and grant them a 1-turn control immunity. And he himself is immune to all control effects and increased ally speeds to 5%. I think that could go up more. No, it was just that on that. But Clock now is absolutely nuts. Attacks one enemy causes physical damage equal to 330% of physical defense. So he's defensive based now, and a 50% chance to reduce the enemy's action bar by 10, upwards of 360% damage. This hits really hard for an A1. This here, though, absolute smack. Attacks all enemies causing 540 physical damage and reducing the action bar of all enemies by 100%. 100%. Which means you can run slower DPS or slower teams all the way up to 570. And that's going to really play a really good importance into helping you progress through content, because you get Astral Clock for free straight out the box. And this is what he does. It's fantastic. And we're not done yet. This here, the self-healing increases the action bar of all allies by 30% and increases their speed by 30% for 2 turns. So that's a more than 60% speed increase right there that can go all the way to a 4-turn cooldown. Really nice. And he's only immune to all control effects now still. So fantabulously fantastic. Fantabulously fantastic. All right, let's take a look here to see. It looks like we're getting close to done. We got about, what, 10 more to go or less? All right, let's get through them quickly. We've gone over Swordsman Guard, or Swordsman Guard moved over to, I think, a Dark Phantom or a Light Phantom. So if we haven't gone over her yet, we'll go over her soon. Gale Archer. This is next. Bombards one enemy with bolts and deals 100 physical damage. Shot an enemy with crossbow doing 200 physical damage and inflicted bleed for 2 turns. And each time the user loses 300 HP, physical attack increases by 25. And when attacking, has a 60% chance of reducing the enemy speed by 25 for 2 turns. All right, so new skills are: attack one enemy causes 210 physical damage. Upon successful critical hit, the target's speed will be reduced by 30% for 2 turns. The A2 attacks one enemy causing a 360% physical damage, with a 75% chance to poison all enemies for 2 turns. Upon successful critical hit, places additional poison debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. So if he's critting, he's poisoning. And that's 290 damage, 100% chance of placing the poisons, double of them. Then upon killing an enemy, 25% of the HP will be restored to the user. So yeah, if you have anybody that you need to finish off, he'll do it. And he'll keep himself alive at the same time. So really, really nice kit so far there. I definitely like that because it's going to be a very good support, along with a little bit of DPS. All right, Sentry Mage, what she used to have, she used to deal 100 damage on her A1. She would deal about 200 damage on her A2. She would summon some tornadoes, attack everybody. 30% chance of inflicting bleed for 2 turns. She used to increase the magic attack by 25% for every 30 HP lost. And that could go all the way up to 25% attack for every 15% HP loss. So she just ramp up her damage to lower her health was. And then the other passive, when attacking, has a 50% chance to reduce the enemy speed by 25% for 2 turns. All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's take a look at what she has now. Attacks one enemy causing 210 magic damage, 50% chance to apply poison. So they're very much built into poisoning. Upwards of 75% can be skilled out to 240 damage on that A1 single target again. She also has the ability to attack all enemies on her A2. 150 magic damage with 75% chance to reduce action bar by 15 and speed by 30% for 2 turns on each enemy that is under the effect of poison. So you come and bring her down to make sure that they don't go again, which is really cool. Can be 100%, 180 damage. Really good skill. Then on her A3, so no passives anymore, attacks all enemies causing 160% magic damage with 50% chance to poison each target for 2 turns. Can be booked up to 75% and damage increased to 190. So a lot of poison and a lot of control. That's going to be really, really cool as far as helping everyone build out teams for the elemental towers. All right, Lord's Guardian used to do 100 damage on this A1, and with taunt. So he would have a automatic taunt on this A1. Then on the A2, attack one enemy with a heavy blow, dealing 200% physical damage, 35% chance of stunning them for 3 turns. Wow, that just completely locked them out, basically. Then his passive Roar R is activated at the start of the battle. Damage from the first incoming attack cannot exceed 40% of max HP. So interesting there. And then damaging a taunting enemy will restore 10% of missing HP. So it'd have a little life steal there built into his kit. So now, attacks one enemy causing physical damage equal to 330 physical defense with a 35% chance to stun the target for 1 turn. That can go up to 360% physical defense damage and a chance to stun by 60%. Then he has, on his A2, attacks random enemies 3 times in a row, causing physical damage equal to 180 physical defense. Each strike has a 75% chance to remove 1 buff and reduce the enemy speed by 30% for 2 turns. So that can go up to 100% at 210 damage. And the passive, after being attacked, there's a 25% chance to reduce the enemy's accuracy by 25% for 1 turn. So all the way up to 50%. So that works really well in tandem. I think not as well as before, I think. Not as well as before. When he had the taunt, I think that worked really, really well. Or that kit could work really well, so it's okay. All right. Let's take a look here, because I don't know if Duke or Fate is here. I didn't think he was. So we're just going to go over Duke of Fate now. I think we went over him in the previous video, but we'll take a look at him again. All right. Attacks one enemy causing 210 magic damage and reducing enemy effect hit by 50% for 2 turns. And attacks all enemy causing 170% magic damage with a 75% chance to steal a random buff from each target. And increases the damage of all allies by 50% and crit chance by 30% for 2 turns. I've been testing around and playing with this dude, and it's been really nice to get that increased damage and also that crit chance increase. So I think early on, making up those crit values, this is where he is going to be really, really good. But also too with the random buff steals, so just kind of load him up with buffs there. So really, really cool. Really, really cool. I like it. All right, so we have Terrible Infector. What he used to do is attack an enemy with a claw strike, 100 damage, physical. Used to do a A2 that did 255 physical damage and reduces the physical defense by 35% for 2 turns. And he had a passive that was a 35% chance to inflict bleed on the enemy. And he had a second passive that when attacking an enemy with a slashing strike, 40% chance of taunting them. So they would just basically come back and hit him again. So really, really nice there as far as keeping some control. Now, skill is attack one enemy causing 130% physical damage, 75% chance to stun the target. If the target is under the effect of burn, bleed, or poison, another attack will be performed causing the same damage. So his A1 can be 100% chance of stunning, 160% of physical attack there. And then his A2 randomly attacks enemies 3 times, causing 110 physical damage with each strike and reducing the enemy's attack bar by 30. Each attack has a 75% chance to stun. So 3 people can be stunned. 80% chance up to 115% physical damage for each of those strikes. And the A3, when killing an enemy, the user's damage increases by 50% for 1 turn, and attack bar increases by 10%, all the way up to 25%. So really, really cool. Really, really cool. As a warrior, but also feels like somebody that can bring some control. All right, let's take a look at these supports here. So Goblin Miner, not as cool as Goblin Transporter. Sorry, not as cool as Goblin Transporter. Goblin Transporter is the coolest. All right, had 100% physical damage with 60% chance of taunting on the A1. The A2, 250 physical damage and would taunt them. And then the A3 converted 40% of the incoming damage into HP, which is divided among all allies, which is kind of cool. And then increased physical defense by 25% in battle. All right, so let's take a look at the skills now. Attacks on enemy causing 130% physical damage. If the target is slowed, an additional attack is guaranteed. Then on the A2, attacks on enemy causing 360% physical damage with a 50% chance to reduce each target's physical defense and magic defense by 50% and speed by 30% for 2 turns. So he does a physical attack on 1, but then there is a 50% chance to reduce everyone else's physical defense and magic defense and speed. And that can go to a 4-turn cooldown, which is ramping up the damage to 390 of physical defense. And then here, when killing an enemy, recovers 25% of own HP all the way up to 50%. So interesting toolkit there. Interesting toolkit. And I think the last thing here is just straight up the skill phantoms there. So again, or the Evo phantoms, which I'm not going to go over. So a lot of changes there. A lot of changes. The biggest thing that stands out to me is the ability to poison. How all those different phantoms can work with Karol to help you build out a poison team. But Karol is going to bring in the absolute smack. He's going to be the finale. But then also having someone like this guy here, Terrible Infector, with being able to stun people there on that A1. Was that? Am I in the right spot? I'm not in the right spot. Here we go. Yep. So having 3 enemies, having a chance of stunning them, and then having an A1 that can stun, causing multiple attacks there. Also too with Duke of Fate, with increasing damage and crit chance. So there's just a lot of goodness that goes along here that makes many of them viable. And not only just viable for win, but also combining them with other phantoms and making them more useful. Thank you so much for taking a look here at this video. Papa Tez, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.